Los Angeles, a city of glamour, dreams, and sunshine. But beneath the glitz of Hollywood and the bright lights of the Sunset Strip, a predator once stalked the night. He hunted under cover of darkness, targeting the most vulnerable. His name? Douglas Clark, also known as the Sunset Strip Killer. In the early 1980s, Los Angeles was gripped by fear. A string of murders began to emerge. Young women, many of them sex workers, found brutally murdered. Their bodies were dumped along roadsides and alleys near the Sunset Strip, a popular stretch known for nightlife, music clubs, and sex work. The brutality of the crimes shocked even the most seasoned investigators. Victims were often found shot in the head, some decapitated, others posed post-mortem. Police believed a serial killer was on the loose, but they were wrong. There wasn't just one killer. Douglas Clark seemed unassuming, intelligent, articulate, with a calm exterior. Born in 1948 to a military family, Clark spent parts of his childhood abroad. He eventually settled in California, working various jobs and drifting through life. But behind the mask was a man obsessed with violent fantasies. He spoke often of necrophilia and expressed disturbing desires. Clark wasn't alone in his dark world. He found a partner in 37-year-old Carol Bundy, a nurse with her own troubled past. Their relationship was toxic and sadistic. Carol, infatuated with Clark, was manipulated into helping him carry out his twisted desires. Together, they would become one of the most disturbing killing duos in American history. Between June and August of 1980, the bodies began piling up. The victims were often young women, lured into Clark's car under the guise of a paid encounter. Once inside, they were shot in the head, often while performing sexual acts. Clark used a small .25 caliber pistol to kill quickly and quietly. In at least one case, he kept the victim's head as a trophy, storing it in a freezer and later using it for necrophilic acts. He returned to some of the bodies to mutilate them or pose them grotesquely, not just for thrill, but to challenge the police. The media dubbed him the Sunset Strip Killer, a name that would forever be linked with horror in LA history. Carol Bundy wasn't just an accomplice, she was a willing participant. She helped Clark lure victims, clean up evidence, and in one instance, she killed a man herself. Jack Murray, a country singer and part-time lover of Carol's, learned too much about her and Clark's crimes. To silence him, Carol lured him into a van and shot him in the head, then attempted to decapitate him with a kitchen knife. It was this brutal act that finally unraveled the case. After killing Jack Murray, Carol Bundy couldn't hold in the secret. She confessed to a co-worker, who then alerted authorities. Police quickly arrested Carol and Douglas. Clark showed no remorse, often speaking with pride about his crimes. During his trial, he acted as his own attorney, turning the courtroom into a disturbing spectacle. In 1983, Douglas Clark was convicted of 6 murders and sentenced to death. Carol Bundy accepted a plea deal and received 52 years to life. She died in prison in 2003. The Sunset Strip murders left a scar on Los Angeles, especially among the city's vulnerable communities. The case became a chilling reminder of how easily predators can hide in plain sight, and how 2 seemingly ordinary people could commit such extraordinary evil. Douglas Clark remains on death row at San Quentin. Decades have passed, but the horror he brought to the Sunset Strip still lingers in memory. Sometimes the real monsters don't hide in the shadows, they walk right beside us. Long after the arrests, the legacy of Douglas Clark and Carol Bundy continues to haunt the collective memory of Los Angeles. Their crimes weren't just shocking in their brutality, they exposed a grim vulnerability in the city's underbelly. Women working the streets, often ignored and unprotected, became easy targets. The Sunset Strip Killer reminded us that society's margins are often hunting grounds for those with predatory intent. The psychology behind Douglas Clark's sadism fascinated and disturbed experts. Diagnosed with narcissistic and antisocial personality disorders, he lacked empathy and reveled in control. Carol Bundy's case was more complex. A victim of childhood abuse and low self-worth, she found twisted validation in Clark's attention, even if it led her down a path of murder. Together, they formed a lethal symbiosis, one manipulating, the other complicit out of love, fear, or delusion. The Sunset Strip case pushed law enforcement to rethink their approach to serial killings. Profiling was still in its early stages, but the FBI's behavioral science unit took note. A pair of killers working together with such grotesque methods was rare. It helped expand the understanding of team killers, where one partner dominates and the other enables. This case became part of FBI training materials and lectures on abnormal psychology. It also changed how the public viewed sex work and safety. Though many victims were marginalized, the case generated enough horror to stir conversations about vulnerability, victim blaming, and the need for community protections. In time, outreach, programs and support systems for sex workers in Los Angeles began to gain traction, a small but important legacy arising from tragedy. The crimes of Clark and Bundy were soon immortalized in books, documentaries, and even fictionalized TV dramas. The public has always had a dark fascination with true crime, but the Sunset Strip case stood out, not just for its gore, but for the bizarre dynamic between the killers. It was a story of lust, power, and psychopathy that felt stranger than fiction. Yet with every retelling, there's a risk. The killers gain infamy, but the victims remain in shadow. It's vital to remember that behind every headline was a young life lost. Women with names, dreams, and loved ones, stolen by a man who saw them only as objects to exploit. The Sunset Strip killer saga reminds us how evil often comes wrapped in the ordinary. A quiet man, a nurse, a relationship hidden in plain sight. It reminds us to look beyond the surface. Because sometimes, the greatest danger doesn't lurk in alleyways or darkness. Sometimes it sleeps next to you. The Sunset Strip murders weren't just about two killers. They were about a society that looked away until it was too late. Today, that legacy serves as a grim lesson, one that urges us to see people, truly see them, regardless of their circumstances, to care before it's convenient, to intervene before it. And what about the system? For years, the women targeted by Clark were seen as disposable by society. The slow response, the missed warning signs, the lack of urgency, all contributed to the death toll. It's a haunting reminder that when we dehumanize certain groups, we allow predators to act with impunity. What makes someone capable of such horror? Was it nature or nurture? These questions still echo in the minds of psychologists and criminologists. Douglas Clark and Carol Bundy weren't born with killer stamped on their foreheads. They were shaped by trauma, by obsession, by a shared descent into depravity. The answers, like their motives, are murky, unsettling, and incomplete. Clark may still sit on death row, but the deeper questions remain with us. What breeds a killer? What blinds us to evil in plain sight? And how many more stories just like this one are waiting to be heard, or worse, repeated?